my game. I was gonna make it the game that I showed you guys on my last video, but I deleted that video and I scratched that game because that would have took way too long and stuff. Like if I said help, I probably would have did it, and like if I knew how to like fully understand everything inside the game, I would have fully did it. But I'm working on this game. Working on this one. I'm trying to make a adventure, so probably a survival game. So when I figure out, I'm gonna focus on the adventure part first. Like just walking around picking up stuff, like have a sword and all that stuff, before I focus on the survival part, mechanic or whatever. It's gonna be the last thing I'm gonna but for now I'm doing this. I made that when he walks, he holding. I don't know why he's switching like that. He's kinda twitchy. I kinda did this little earlier. His other arms are moving in the air. It's kind of a little stiff. Guess it's good they got that little switching to him. But he walks like that for some reason. But I tried to, cause I tried to when like Walker standing, he's holding his book bag that I got him. His book bag actually moves. It's not stiff. I gotta change some stuff like his jumping and all that, and how he moves when he walks. You can't be having them twitch like that. Then I'm gonna start editing and stuff later. But for now we're gonna focus on how he moves. And why he's walking like that. No, twitching. Which we don't want him to walk like that. I don't know how would I edit this. What would I do? Edit this part, yeah. What would I edit for him to stop? For him to stop moving like that. I change his chest. But his chest, I made it so that his chest is like his book bag, which I probably shouldn't have did, but it makes his if you make the chest his book bag, it makes his like his book bag move chest. Because if I go to chest and body structure, his chest, all this is gone. It's probably why I can't edit this stuff. No. Yeah, but some reason I canceled out his chest. Like that's his chest now, that back right there. Wait, that's it. Some reason when I made that like that, it was his chest is his book bag. So now someone's gonna put remove. Nothing's gonna be his chest. So that cancel all that stuff. Nothing is his chest. I want his chest to be his chest. Yeah, bam. Sorry why I couldn't move his like none of his body parts. Hope his book bag still runs. He's not. He literally just died. Okay, now he's moving by himself. For some reason now he's moving by himself. His book bag is acting crazy. Stop it. Now he's moving by himself and his bag is acting crazy. And don't know why, cause all I did was detach his chest from being his book bag. Now it's just now he moving no more. And I made his chest is looks like he moved. I don't know why he doing it. Let's keep his chest as his boot bag. To you. On his arm to just be. Now I don't know what he's doing now. For some reason he's moving, doing stuff by himself. I probably can't delete him. I'm gonna try to delete him. Delete him and not the bag. Delete. So when I delete him, I delete the boot bag too. I delete him. And I'm gonna delete him. And I think I should really delete him. He ain't moving no more, so I gotta delete him. He ain't moving back. Now it's sit switching, but not his arms. Well, so what did I do? Just now he's starting to move by stuff again. Let me just turn it. What did I turn it on? Gotta grab him before he jumps in. This. Okay, not as well. I'm gonna turn it off. So I don't know what's wrong with him. I'm gonna delete him. I can resolve. I can show you guys how I did it too. Delete everything up. Wait. He's gone. He's done. I'm where home. For some reason that thing's still right there. Okay, now it's gone. I'm making noise. I know how to do everything. At least now you guys can. I can show you guys how I did it. Well, it sound like guys, what's called with the anyway. That ain't working. I think when I made an object, it started moving. How do I attach it to him? I'm not moving him now. So damn weird. Still damn weird. See, I did it last time. I just, you know what you call it. Uh, I just make the book bag into his chest instead of actually making him and the book bag into a group. Now I don't know how to do it. That's the only way I know how to do it. I think when I move him now, he'll be a part of the book bag. No. Now why is his back seem like it's broken and do nothing to me? Look, this is gonna be weird. His back's still. I'm gonna go back to this one. So this is the original one. Or his. Or he walked it funny. I might just keep him like that, I don't know. I kill a little stiff. It's like, okay. And I can't change how he walk because I can't actually move him at all. Can't move none of his hands unless I move the actual book bag. Now that I move the book bag, I move him. So unless I make his chest into a chest ring, Richie just gonna start moving like a retard. So after that, he's gonna start moving by himself. I'm not gonna be able to move his arms. Let me see this. This dumb. But I don't know how to make the boot back and like into a group without making them like this. What if I deleted the boot back like? What if I did it like this? Made his chest into a chest and deleted the boot bag from. somehow this is a part of my arm. This is dumb. This is stupid. So I might just have to start from scratch. I don't know. I might have to look it up how to do this. I'm gonna keep this. So I'm just gonna make a new one. So I probably figured out how to do that. I'm not even gonna set it by. I just want him to move with the Bubba, and Bubba moves with him. I move him, the Bubba move with him. Instead of they're both separate. And that's not. See, I would just like which one? I'm not gonna save this. It's not save. So I would just go to search. It just I would just look up like an adventure character, like with a book bag and all that stuff. Let me look up. You're finna sound stupid. Look up. These guys look insane. Let me see. This guy is standing. Do he even got a run button? See how slow his running is. And why his face is like it's stupid. I'm gonna try to make a game. I don't know. It seems like it's hard to make one. I've been trying to make one, but it's like it's too hard. Like I got that's not nothing. I got these two. This is he supposed to be a he's supposed to be a ninja character, but I didn't do too good though. He's too fast. Well, you don't feel like you're controlling him much, and he just walks. Doesn't stop quick enough. It's kinda good. But he just kinda looks stupid. I don't know. He just look dumb. Like that. Then I made this character, but he can't use his sword or his shield at all. He just walk with it. But yeah, I can't, I don't know how I test this sword, but he can't use his sword. And it's kind of hard to actually make a sword in this game. Like that, them was my two of them that I tried to do, but this, I don't know what that is. This just sucks. I actually kind of did this right a little bit, but he's switching his sips. And he that's when he walks like real slow, but I'm just regular walking, he don't move like that. When I run, don't move like that either, but when I try like really walk slow. like switching their suits. Like everything good, like and this one, but since he walked with his sit swooping, I can't really make him. Plus, I can't do nothing else with his arms since his blue back is his arms. Since his chest, arms, and all in his head, like his blue back is down like everything. Like when I try to take it away from him, I'm going. How sad is it?
Devil.
Oh dear, it looks like Cuthbert is really stuck this time. In previous tutorials, you've edited the scene to help Connie reach Cuthbert. But this time, you'll be editing Connie herself, supercharging her with some new abilities to get past the obstacles in the scene. Bear in mind that this is a complex tutorial in which it's easy to make a mistake. If you do, remember to use the left directional button to undo. Now go into play mode and see how far you can get. Possess Connie with R2 and press the X button to jump. Oops, she can't even get over the first obstacle. So let's start by souping up her jump height. Switch back to edit mode and we'll get started. To change Connie's jump height, all we need to do is tweak her. So hover over her, hold L1 and press the square button to open her tweak menu. This is a puppet tweak menu. As you can see, it's jam-packed with different options. Thankfully, the setting we want is on the first page. All these settings control Connie's overall movement. We could make Connie run super fast or super slow. But nah, that's not going to help her. A nice high jump is what we need. What do we have here? This slider controls Connie's jump height. Hover over it with your imp and hold X to grab it. Move your imp to adjust the slider to around 3 meters. That should be enough to get over that stack of blocks. The Puppet Tweak menu also has some really useful testing controls. Click R3 to start time, and Connie will come to life. See what happens now if you hover your imp over the jump height slider. You can preview the jump, so you can get it to the perfect height without having to test it in play mode. Actually, I think you should dial it back to 2.5 meters, or she might overshoot the jump. You can make small adjustments to sliders by using the up and down directional buttons. Hover over the slider and use the down directional button to adjust the setting. Feel free to explore some of the other settings in the menu. If you're not sure what a button or slider does, just hover over it for a few seconds and a more info tip will pop up to explain. You can even adjust the strength of gravity on her jump. Turn it down a bit to make her jump more floaty. When you've got Connie's jump the way you want it, give it a test run in play mode. See how far Connie can get now, then move on to the next step when you're ready to continue. Well, that was pretty cool. Unfortunately, Connie's new jumping skills aren't going to be much use on the next obstacle. And don't even think about making her jump over the top, because that force field will zap her in a second. Instead, let's give Connie the power to crouch. I bet she's always dreamed of it. If you're still in play mode, switch back to edit mode now. Rewind time with L3 to put Connie back at the start. To give her a crouch, we need to scope into her. Puppets are made up of sculptures, connectors, and gadgets that are grouped together. Hover over Connie, press and hold L1, then press X to scope in. When you've scoped into a puppet, you can see its inner workings. On Connie's back, there's a microchip gadget. It's called Connie's brain, and it contains all her logic and animations. Let's take a look inside. Hold L1 and press X over it to scope in and open the microchip canvas. There's quite a lot going on in here. The gadget I want you to look at is this one in the bottom right corner with the diamond icon. This is a keyframe gadget. If you've played through the Keyframes and Timelines tutorial, you'll already know all about these. Keyframes record changes to things in the scene. They store those changes in a gadget, which can be triggered using logic. This keyframe contains a crouching pose for Connie. Select the keyframe with X, and you'll see a preview of how it looks. Those dashed lines over Connie show that she's being changed by the keyframe. Press circle to deselect the keyframe and she goes back to normal. To be able to activate the crouch keyframe, we need to connect it to Connie's controller sensor. Then you'll be able to make her crouch with a controller button. In the next step, I'll show you how to do exactly that. To activate the crouch, we're going to connect it to Connie's controller sensor. If you've closed her microchip, scope back into her and then scope into the microchip to open it up again. The controller sensor is the large gadget on Connie's microchip. It has a controller icon on it. Open up its tweak menu with L1 and square. Now you have a microchip and a tweak menu open, you may need to arrange them on the screen. Make sure that the controller sensor and its tweak menu stay to the left. This is because they generate signals, and signals flow through gadgets from left to right in Dreams. You can also save the 3D space position of tweak menus and microchips, or pin them to the screen, using the buttons that appear at the top when hovering over the canvas. This will help you keep them tidy while you're editing logic, which is very important as it's easy to make mistakes. Now, let's take a closer look at that controller sensor. Ah, look, controller buttons. Just what we need. All playable characters contain a controller sensor gadget like this one. But the gadget can also be used for any situation where you want to detect button presses. To assign our keyframe to a button, we just need to wire it to the controller sensor. We won't use a circle button as that depossesses Connie, and X makes her jump. So how about the square button to crouch? Make sure you can see the keyframe on the microchip. Move the tweak menu with R2 if you need to. If you hover over the square button in the controller sensor menu, you'll see ports appear on either side of it. They're just like the ports you see on gadgets. Ports on the left are inputs, and ports on the right are outputs. Now, you need to be very precise for the next part, as it's easy to make a mistake. Carefully hover your imp over the output port of the square button, and press X to create a wire. Stretch that wire over to the keyframe, and connect it to the power port on the bottom of the gadget with X. If at any time you make a mistake, just undo it using the left directional button. Once your crouch move is all wired up, close the controller sensor tweak menu. Hover over it, hold L1, then press circle to close. Now try out Connie's new crouch in play mode. See if she can make it under the second obstacle. When you're ready to continue, go back to edit mode. Rewind time with L3 and start the next step. Right, we're on to the final obstacle. There's no way around it, but it looks destructible. So we're gonna make a slam attack for Connie so that she can smash through it. We'll start by recording a pose for the slam. We can do this using a keyframe. Scope back into Connie and open up her microchip if it isn't already open. If you've played my keyframes and timelines tutorial, you'll have a bit of a head start on this next part. Go to the assembly menu and open the animate menu. Select the keyframe with X. You'll now have a keyframe gadget on your imp. Stamp it somewhere in the scene with R2 or X. The keyframe records changes you make to objects and settings in the scene. So we're going to make a slam attack for Connie so that she can smash through it. We'll start by recording a pose for the slam. We can do this using a keyframe. Scope back into Connie and open up her microchip if it isn't already open. If you've played my keyframes and timelines tutorial, you'll have a bit of a head start on this next part. Go to the assembly menu and open the animate menu. Select the keyframe with X. You'll now have a keyframe gadget on your imp. Stamp it somewhere in the scene with R2 or X. The keyframe records changes you make to objects and settings in the scene. It starts recording as soon as you stamp it. You can tell it's recording because your imp will change shape and colour. Now that we're recording, grab Connie's upper body with R2 and drag it gently down to the floor. Because we're scoped into her, we can move her body parts individually to create a pose. If we weren't scoped in, we'd move Connie's whole body. Notice that her knees automatically bend. Make sure her cone is all the way down to the floor so that you can't see her legs. Keyframes can record changes to anything, even tweak menu settings. So, just for visual flair, let's also make her glow. Hover over Connie's cone, hold L1 and press square to open its tweak menu. Because we're scoped in, this opens the tweak menu for the sculpture itself, rather than the puppet. All the settings on this page change the way Connie's cone looks. Look for the glow slider on the first page. Its icon itself, L1, and press square to open its tweak menu. So, just for visual flair, let's also make her glow. Hover over Connie's cone, hold L1 and press square to open its tweak menu. Because we're scoped in, this opens the tweak menu for the sculpture itself, rather than the puppet. All the settings on this page change the way Connie's cone looks. Look for the glow slider on the first page. Its icon is a sun. Raise the glow up to about 40%. Once you've set the glow, select Stop Recording in the context menu to store the changes to the keyframe. You can close the tweak menu now too. Just hover over it, hold L1 and press circle. Select the keyframe gadget with X to preview what's been recorded. Looks good. Deselect the keyframe by pressing circle. In the next step, we'll continue building Connie's slam attack. The next step is to place our new Connie animation into a timeline. Using a timeline will let us time the animations and effects of the slam attack. Go to the Assembly menu and back to the Animate menu. Select the timeline with X. Hover over Connie's microchip and stamp a timeline above the crouch keyframe. Now let's open the timeline canvas with L1 and X. The slam attack should be a really quick animation. So adjust the canvas so it's only 1 second long. Any longer and it won't feel snappy enough. Hover over the edge of the timeline canvas so that a white line appears along it. You'll also see a white double-ended arrow appear next to the edge by your imp. When you see this, grab the edge of the canvas with X. Move your imp to shorten the timeline to 1 second. Make sure you don't select the trim button by mistake. It's a square button by the numbers at the top of the timeline. Double fill the animations and effects of the slam attack. Go to the Assembly menu and back to the Animate menu. Select the timeline with X. Hover over Connie's microchip, animations and effects of the slam attack. Go to the Assembly menu and back to the Animate menu. Select the timeline with X. Hover over Connie's microchip and stamp a timeline above the crouch keyframe. Now let's open the timeline canvas with L1 and X. The slam attack should be a really quick animation. So adjust the canvas so it's only 1 second long. Any longer and it won't feel snappy enough. Hover over the edge of the timeline canvas so that a white line appears along it. You'll also see a white double-ended arrow appear next to the edge by your imp. When you see this, grab the edge of the canvas with X. Move your imp to shorten the timeline to 1 second. Make sure you don't select the trim button by mistake. It's a square button by the numbers at the top of the timeline. It has a black arrow on it. The timeline duration is now correct, but the space is very small. So let's zoom in a bit. Hover your imp over the timeline canvas, hold L1 and press the right directional button to zoom in. This will keep the timeline duration to 1 second long, but stretch the space so that you can fit more detail into it. If you need to zoom out, just hold L1 and press the left directional button. Now let's put our slam attack keyframe onto the timeline. Grab the keyframe with R2 and place it at the start of the timeline canvas. Make sure you've got the slam keyframe and not the crouch one. The gadget automatically snaps to the surface of the canvas. The keyframe is only a fraction of a second long at the moment, but we need it to fill the length of the timeline. So hover over the keyframe and hold the up directional button to scale it. Make it the same length as the timeline. Now we want to wire the timeline up to a button press, just like we did with the crouch. Move the timeline canvas so that you can see the controller sensor and the timeline gadget. Open the controller sensor tweak menu with L1 and square. I'm going to use L1 as the slam attack button. Hover over the output port of the L1 button, open it, but we need it to fill the length of the timeline. So hover over the keyframe and hold the up directional button to scale it. Make it the same length as the timeline up to a button press, just like we did with the crouch. Move the timeline canvas so that you can see the controller sensor and the timeline gadget. Open the controller sensor tweak menu with L1 and square. I'm going to use L1 as the slam attack button. Hover over the output port of the L1 button and press X to create a wire. Stretch the wire down to the timeline gadget and connect it to the power port on the bottom. You can now use the L1 button to perform Connie's slam attack. Give it a try in play mode. At the moment, it's just an animation, so it's not going to do anything to the blocks. But in the next step, I'll show you how to add some force to it. When you're ready to continue, return to edit mode, rewind time, and start the next step. The slam attack animation is all set up, but it's not doing much. Besides looking cool, so we need to add a gadget to our timeline that will emit a force when Connie slams the ground. The gadget we're going to use for this is the force applier. Go to the assembly menu and open the gadgets menu. Find the move as an output menu and open it with X. The icon for the force applier looks like a gust of wind. Select it with X to equip it to your imp. I hope you've still got the timeline open. If not, open it with L1 and X. Stamp the force applier onto the timeline canvas below the keyframe. Press circle to unequip the force applier from your imp. The force applier isn't very strong by default, so we'll need to tweak it. To open its tweak menu, hover over the gadget, hold L1 and press square. At the top of the tweak menu is the force strength slider. Its icon is a beefy arm. Drag it all the way up to 100% using your imp. That will ensure the force emitted will overcome the gravity in the scene and the friction between the blocks. Next, increase the force speed to 10 meters per second. That will give the slam attack some punch. If you take a look at Connie, you'll see a green zone around her. Anything in this zone will be affected by the force applier. At the moment, the zone isn't much bigger than Connie. Hover your imp over the zone and arrow gizmos will appear. Grab them with R2 and move your imp to change the size of the zone. Or you can scale the zone more precisely in the force applier tweak menu. Go to the tab called Zone Size. Grab the zone size slider with X and set it to about 3.5 meters. Okay, let's test out Connie's new powers. Switch over to play mode. Possess Connie and give her new slam attack a try. Oops! Looks like it's more power than Connie can handle. The force applier is pushing her off the platform. Switch back to edit mode and rewind time. In the final step, I'll show you how to tweak the force applier so that it only affects the objects we want it to.